Recording. We are going to start recording. Okay, welcome everyone. My name is May, and I am with the Minnesota DNR Fish and Wildlife Outreach Team. I'm really excited to be introducing you today to our guest, who will be presenting our 189th episode of the Minnesota Outdoor Skills and Stewardship Series. Monica Byron is the Executive Director of Urban Bird Collective. She is a longtime birder and a phenomenal bird photographer. Today, she will be sharing with you tips on how to photograph birds. She's even going to give you a couple of her favorite birding spots away for the fall migration, and she will be sharing the amazing work that Urban Bird Collective is doing. So, Monica, again, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you everyone for being here as well.
Great. Thanks, May. I'm so glad that I get to continue to work with you. We've worked together in the past on birding things. So again, I'm Monica Bryand, and uh, I'm going to ask a stupid question. Do they see the PowerPoint right now?
Yes, we can see your
Okay, great.
PowerPoint.
Okay, all right. So everybody, this is a cedar waxwing, and I became a birder a little over maybe close to 25 years ago. And before the day that I saw a cedar waxwing, I thought birds were just sparrows and whatever. And then somebody took me out, and I saw over 50 different species of birds. And the cedar waxwing is what I call my spark bird. It's what really got me hooked. And so I just love the cedar waxwings. Today, I'll talk a little bit about the Urban Bird Collective, about fall migration, and some of my hotspots, and then some tips for finding and taking photos of birds. Uh, so this is me out in the wild. When I first started birding and thinking about bird photography, I consider myself a birder first and a photographer second. But I went to National Camera and said, I'm going to be a bird photographer. Give me what I need. And so I've got a pretty good sized lens. So when people say, "Oh, you're such a great photographer," it's really about the equipment and knowing where to find the birds is super helpful. Um, the Urban Bird Collective. So I started out as an accountant. I wanted to be an accountant, and I was going to be just sitting in a little small nonprofit and doing the books, and from there started working on diversity issues, and from there went into the foundation world. So I was a program officer for over 20 some years. But I became a birder during that time. And because my head was just all consumed with birding, I decided that I needed to leave there. And um, kind of that's when I first started thinking about the Urban Bird Collective and the work that needed to be out there. So about 6 years ago, in 2018, I started the collective mainly because I just kept hearing from people on my Facebook page for probably the last 15 years. Every day I would post a new bird, a bird of the day. And these are photos that have never been posted before. And during the year, I try to get about 200 different Minnesota species each year, and just wanted to engage people in what we had right here in the Twin Cities or in Minnesota. But what I kept hearing was, that's really amazing, but I don't feel as safe and welcomed out in the outdoors. Can I come and bird with you? And these were really mostly my BIPOC and LGBT friends, and I identify as both. So I of course said, yeah, absolutely, you can come with me. But I also knew that it needed to be more than me. And so I had other friends who were birders, and I grabbed 8 of them, and all of them represent either BIPOC or LGBT, the LGBTQAI plus communities. And we started the collective in 2018. We knew we were on the right track. We loved being in space together, and the people who came and joined us were thrilled. So the next year we added another 8 people. So we had 16, I call them leaders, and it just grew and grew. And today we have over 34 leaders with the Urban Bird Collective. 100% of our leaders are either BIPOC or LGBTQAI+. And I always love saying that they're majority BIPOC and majority LGBTQAI+. We host about 70 events a year. We do a lot of it through partners. We partner with over a dozen organizations. So we either support them in providing walks for them, inviting their BIPOC constituents, or doing other things. So like I said, we do our work through leaders. And then the other thing that we do, for me, it's not just about birding. Even when I started birding, I was an environmentalist first. And so using birding as sort of the hook or the inspiration for people to want to protect and conserve areas is really important for us. So for the Urban Bird Collective, we do chimney swift counts, we do winter bird counts with folks. We work at Pig's Eye Lake, Pig's Eye Park, bringing folks down there to see on the east side this amazing piece of property that figure out how we support it being made into a space that people can enjoy. So we do a lot of work around conservation efforts. The fall migration. I'm going to focus on sparrows, shorebirds, raptors, ducks and waterfowl, and then some birds that come and visit us in the winter. So, sparrows. This is a LeConte sparrow, a very, very rare sparrow. And so while I'm a birder and I know I get a lot of my photos because I know where to find the birds, some of the special birds are a little bit harder. And so sometimes what I do is I actually go on trips that are being offered by either MOU or some other birding organizations. And MOU is the Minnesota Ornithologists Union. So they provide some really great trips. And so I got to go on this trip and I was able to get this LeConte sparrow. And it sat there and posed for me. Sparrows are not normally like that. Sparrows are really hard to get. They tend to like pop in and out of the grass. And so for me, it's just being ready for when they come up for just a second, just, being there. The other thing I would say for sparrows or for other birds is they like to be on paths. And so whenever you think about birds, you think about looking up in the trees. What I tell people is you got to look on the paths too. So when you're looking on the paths and you see some sparrows or some birds hopping around, one of the tips that I would say is take some photos, get those photos, and then take a few more steps in and take some more photos and get as close as you can before they, go away. So for me, I tell people I've taken over 140,000 photos. And so I've deleted about 120,000 of those, but I take a ton of photos. So this is LeConte, and I got this one in Western Minnesota in the fall. Here's a Lincoln sparrow, and the Lincoln's sparrows come through like any migration. It's a reverse migration. So there's the spring migration, and then there's the fall migration. So Lincoln sparrows have been coming through. And again, another pretty rare sparrow and fun to find. The white-throated sparrow. One of my favorite sparrows during the migration. One, because I love their song. You can see it singing here. They're up north all the time, year round. And what I really appreciate and get a chuckle out of is white-throated sparrows trying to practice. The young juvies trying to practice their little song, and they don't quite have it, but they're still so fun to listen to. Here's a Vesper sparrow. And, before I started birding, again, I thought all sparrows were house sparrows. And now I appreciate sparrows so much. And just finding the little differences that they have and being able to tell what they are, either by their call or by seeing them. Here's a white-crowned sparrow. So while the white-throated sparrow are more common, the white-throated sparrow or the white-crowned sparrow is really fun to find. And again, they're coming through in right now. And again, up north in Duluth, they're hanging around there. The Harris sparrow. This was I've had a fun year with the Harris sparrows this year. I have before this year, I only saw them in my 20 some years. I've only seen them maybe 4 times. And this year alone, I think I've seen them at least six different times. So a fun sparrow to see. And I'm hoping they're more regular, but anyway, it was fun to see them more this year. And then the song sparrow. It's the most common. And for me, I always want to turn song sparrows into something else because, they just have a great look. And but it's not. What happens is I'm always trying to turn it into another sparrow, and then all of a sudden it sings, and then I'm like, oh, okay, it's a song sparrow. So, but I still appreciate them. Some of my go-to places for sparrows in the Twin Cities are Battle Creek Regional Park. And again, hitting the grasslands, the open sort of prairies is where you're going to see the sparrows. So Afton State Park is a place. And then there's Afton off of 50th. If people don't know this, there's another park that's connected to Afton. I call it Afton off of 50th. Great open prairies there. Tons of sparrows and other birds. There's orchard orioles and bobolinks sometimes and dickcissels. So it's a really great place to go. Crosby Park in St. Paul. Old Cedar Avenue Bridge is another great place. And Coldwater Creek near Minnehaha Falls is another great place for especially sparrows. Then there's the waterfowl. When I was really lucky when I decided that I was going to leave philanthropy and become more of a birder. I got a special project with Audubon National, and I was commissioned to take photos of. In Minnesota, we have 167, I think, threatened or endangered birds. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awesome. Unfortunately, I was still working. I was doing some other stuff, but I was going out really early in the morning. And this picture always reminds me that when I was going out and I was trying to think of the next place I could go, and I was always in this hurry, this photo always reminds me to slow down. And I just remember this was at Old Cedar Avenue Bridge, and I was there, I don't know, like at 6 in the morning, and it was so peaceful and calm. And I was just like, take it in, stop. And so this is a lesser yellow leg. And I'm just thankful that I have this picture, and it always reminds me to slow down. Here is a ruddy turnstone, and I got this up in Duluth. So up in Duluth, if you go out to Park Point, especially in the morning, because Park Point can get so busy. You just have to be there super early. And if you walk along the beaches and go over, you'll hopefully see some shorebirds and keep walking down. And the further away you get from sort of that main parking lot or the airport down there, the better chance you have of seeing some of the shorebirds. This is an American avocet. And again, before I on this project that I was doing, I had never seen an American avocet, and so it was on the list, and I was lucky enough to find it. This one was taken at Bass Ponds down at the Minnesota River Valley National Wildlife Refuge. And one of the things that I'll say about shorebirds is knowing the places that you're going to go and knowing, especially for lighting, so knowing the sunset and sunrise are the best times to get pictures. And so thinking about Bass Ponds, Now you can go there and there's a couple different little ponds and you can walk around them so you can get great lighting. But there's also the river, and there are a lot of ducks and waterfowl and shorebirds that are on the riverside. And if you go there in the morning, you're going to get backlighting on the river. But if you go there like at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, depending on the time of year, the lighting is going to be better for the river birds. So just for me, one of the things that I would say is know your locations, and especially for shorebirds and ducks, because you're not always able to walk around a pond. You have to know where the best lighting is and when it is, and where the ducks like to congregate or where the shorebirds like to congregate. So really important to know those things. Um, Cute little sanderling. Again, up in the North Shores where I got this. Shorebirds are really hard to pick like hot spots. There are a few that you'll kind of get a sense, but it's just a matter of checking some of the eBird lists, the sightings that have been posted, to know if they're there or not. And every day is different. Every hour is different with especially shorebirds, never knowing what's going to fly in or what's going to fly out. This is a little spotted sandpiper, pretty common as far as migration. And actually, spotted sandpipers are hang around all summer. I usually see them on the Mississippi when I'm kayaking or hanging around there. This is a black-bellied plover, and this is in winter plumage. So one of the I don't talk about warblers for the fall migration because warblers are really hard. Some of them are really hard to identify. They lose a lot of their color. Same with some of the shorebirds. So this black bellied plover is a gorgeous, gorgeous bird, but it's in winter migration. Not to say that it's not still pretty, but it is in the winter plumage. And I got this again up in Duluth near Park Point, in a ball field. When you're looking for birds up in Duluth, you just kind of keep an eye out for anything that's moving. So some of my go-to places for shorebirds, 180th Street Marsh, which is down 55 towards, if you're going towards Hastings. So 180th and 140th Street Marsh. Lake Bilsby is another great place. Lake Bilsby is also one of those places where you have to know where the sunset and the sunrise locations are, because they're totally different. And Lake Bilsby is super super big, so knowing where the birds are and the lighting when it's good is important. Old Cedar Avenue Bridge. Again, I talked about bass ponds, and then believe it or not, sewage ponds are amazing for especially shorebirds and other kinds of waterfowl. So knowing where the sewage ponds are and checking them out. Here you have the raptors. So when I think about photography, raptors are a little bit harder, especially if you're trying to catch them flying. So for me, the trick is to get on target, to get it in focus, and then there's a setting on most cameras that if you can get it, it will track it as long as you can hold on to it in flight. And if you keep the focus down, you can follow uh, the raptors. The hard part is sometimes they're super high, and so trying to actually find it and get it is hard. And then the other thing that I think about for raptors, especially, is um, if especially for my camera, it's pretty big and it's kind of heavy, and so having the strength or having something, whether it's a monopod or a tripod that actually is that you can move around, will be really important, because you're up there um, trying to trying to get these birds with your heavy camera above your head. So building up the strength and then having other equipment that you need to assist you would be really important. This is a broadwing hawk, and one of the places that I go for raptors, because it's hard. You can't just say, oh, you're gonna go to this place and see a raptor, or this place, especially during fall migration. But the one place I can tell you is at Hawk Ridge. I am on the board of Hawk Ridge. I've been on the board for about 5 years, but I've been birding up at Hawk Ridge for forever. And it's typically known for its fall migration, which starts around August 15th and ends about November 15th. That's the time frame that we, Hawk Ridge, have observers up there. So we're counting the hawks and other passerines that are going through during that time. There's also the spring migration, and it's not actually at Hawk Ridge. It's another little place that's close to there, but because the location, the platform is closed because of the spring, there's another location. But if you go to Hawk Ridge, their website, you'll get more information about where the different migrations are. And for this broadwing, when I took this, it was in a kettle of about 500 different broadwings. So they were just circling, getting, connecting with the current and just having a great time. And so I took this photo and just pulled it in and cropped it. So this was one of about 500 photos that I had taken. This is a rough-legged hawk, and they're coming through right now. And the funny thing about rough-legged hawks is there's probably about 4 or 5 different sort of what we call morphs. And so you never, sometimes you question like, oh, oh yeah, that's just a rough-legged hawk. So, but one of the bigger hawks, really fun to see. They are actually, I've seen a couple recently at Pig's Eye Park and different sort of wildlife areas here around the Twin Cities, and they're definitely going through. This is a northern harrier. This is actually a female northern harrier, and what I always can tell them, at a distance because of the little white band on their butt, but very, very fun to find. I see northern harriers at Saxon Bog and different places, but definitely at Hawk Ridge. And then the peregrine falcon. There is a prairie falcon, but the peregrine falcon, again, a really fun bird to see. And they are here in the Twin Cities. You can see them close to Harriet Island. They're on the Mississippi River. And then you can also see them up near the Ford Parkway Bridge. And the other place, they're in sort of by St. Louis Park. They're in, it's called the Pentair building. They actually have a nest box on the Pentair building. And if you know about peregrine falcons, they like to nest in buildings. And so there's actually a nest in downtown St. Paul in one of the buildings. I don't know which building it is. I think it's the U.S. Bank building, but you can see the peregrine falcons in the Twin Cities often. And then again, my go-to places are Hawk Ridge. Like if you want to see a hawk, and if you want helpers, like the hawks will be coming in for miles, and the interns and staff at Hawk Ridge are there to tell you what you're seeing, and we'll help you with other. We have classes up there that you can go to, and you'll see other birds as well, as in addition to the raptors. And each fall, Hawk Ridge averages about 76,000 migrating raptors. The thing that, not the thing, the bird that's coming through sort of at the end of the migration are the golden eagles. And the golden eagles are actually, they hang here in the winter with us near Red Wing. So one of the places that I go to see golden eagles is near the whitewater management area. So fun to see. So here I am in my Hobie kayak. It's a pedal kayak that allows me to be hands free when I'm doing photography on the water, and the water really just gives me a different access point. I have a couple of different places that I know where nesting prothonotary warblers are, or where the kingfishers might be, and so I love to hop in my kayak and try to go find them. So ducks. This is right now the ducks are coming through. They're in the various lakes, ponds. This is a pair of red-headed ducks, and it's very fun to see. This is a hooded merganser, which has its brilliant head, and this is a gorgeous bird. And one of the duck babies that I really, really love are baby hooded mergansers. I haven't gotten a good picture of one yet, but hopefully sometime I will do that. But they're just really cute because they look like this and have little teeny tiny heads. Northern shovelers, always fun to see, and love their big beaks. So again, horned grebes. When I first started birding, and again, I'm absorbing all the tips that I'm trying to get. We would see, maybe 50 to 100 horned grebes. And what I was told is you have to search all of the grebes because you never know when you might get an eared grebe. And so I'm always searching all of the ducks. It could be 100 coots or it could be whatever. I'm searching to make sure that I'm not missing anything. I think the other thing that I love with photography is one, capturing the different sort of angles, but then getting the reflections of the ducks and various birds is always fun.
Monica,
Yeah.
I don't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to make a note that there's a lot of background noise.
Okay.
So
Hold
I
on
don't
one
know if
second.
there's a
Yep.
door you
Hold on
can
one second.
close.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
I was just going to remind people too that we did a really cool program on the Peregrine Falcon and one up at Hawk Ridge. So if people want to check those out, also think about going up there this fall and seeing a little bit of that migration. I put those links to those webinars in the chat function too. So
I'm so sorry. So that
That's
was my
okay.
office.
Thanks,
Back to the
Reggie, and
blueing.
thanks, Monica.
Sorry. Yeah. So here's blueing teals. Again, one of the more abundant birds, ducks that we see, especially in the fall and the spring. And the more, I'm really sorry. Hold on. Oh my gosh, I can't find all of them. So sorry. All right, here we go. Green wing teals. So while I love the blue wing, the green wing teal is gorgeous, as you can see. One of the teals that I haven't found yet and is on my list for my special project is a cinnamon teal. And I've seen them posted usually once a year, and I've gone out and I've tried to find them, but have not gotten a cinnamon teal yet. So it's definitely one of my target birds that I would love to see a life bird for me. the ringneck duck, which I always, forget, and I want to say ring-billed duck, as you can see, but pretty stunning. And again, another common bird that you'll see. Bufflehead ducks, one of the smaller diving ducks, and then one of the things that I say, or to help uh, uh, new birders, is identifying the females. So a lot of the females are sort of this brownish color, and sometimes they can look the same. So who are they swimming with? And then just finding the other little identification markers that will tell you, what it is. But I usually can pretty quickly tell just by who they're hanging around with, which male they're hanging around with. And the lesser scops. So again, I when I see lesser scops from a distance, and I sometimes kind of think of the ring neck ducks together, and so just trying to get a really good sense of which one it is, but they're pretty similar. And again, female are brown and a little bit bigger than the buffleheads. And then the gorgeous wood duck. So they're very, abundant here and pretty stunning. So love the wood ducks. My go-to places are Bass Ponds. Again, depending on the lighting, Old Cedar Avenue Bridge, Coon Rapids Dam, especially during the spring, is a great place. Badness Lake and Sucker Lake are two great places to go. Just recently, a red-necked grebe was spotted at Badness Lake. And then Pig's Eye Lake is another place that a lot of waterfowl go to, and especially like trumpeter swans and pelicans will hang out at Pig's Eye Lake. Here are some of the birds that come and hang with us during the winter. So the dark-eyed junco. When it's like August, September, and I see a dark-eyed junco, I'm like, no, only because winter's close behind after they arrive. But they are really, really cute, and I do love that they come and hang out with us in the winter. Snowy owls will come down. I got this one during an eruption that happened, I want to say close to 15 years ago. There were over 1,000 snowy owls that came close to the Twin Cities. And on this day, I saw 6 of them in Anoka. You can also see snowy owls almost every year, at the Minneapolis airport. And so that's a great place to go if they're reported. The mountain bluebird, we have eastern bluebirds, but and they're gorgeous. This mountain bluebird will come and visit Minnesota, maybe once every other year or so. But I got this one at Como Park when it came maybe 2 years ago. And then this is a berry thrush. And so one of the things that, when I think about as a birder or as a photographer, there are a couple of different ways to go about. You can be, a birder that just walks really fast and wants to see as much as it possibly can, or you might be a birder who likes to settle down in a couple of different spots and just wait for the birds to come to them. And that's the same thing with photography. So thinking about what you want as sort of your background, and knowing that the thrushes and the cedar waxwings and other birds really love the berries. So you're going to sit there and you're going to wait for them to come and visit. And so this berry thrushes come, I would say once a year, to somebody's yard or a place. And so again, a good place to go is the eBird list to see what's rare coming through. I got this berry thrush in Stillwater probably 10 years ago. And then the American tree sparrow. So the chipping sparrow looks very similar to the American tree sparrow. And so just knowing, again, migration and just the little differences in how they look. But the American tree sparrow comes and visits us in the winter. So very cute and looks just like a chipping sparrow. And here's another example of, so this is a Townsend solitaire, and Townsend solitaires come in the winter. There are usually at least one or two different ones that are posted. This one was down near South St. Paul. And I knew that it really loved these little berries. And so just kind of waited, and it just, waited and waited until it came to this particular bunch of berries and got some pictures. So another birds that come down to visit us in the winter are birds from up north who are going to come down and near, Duluth or near Zaxton Bog, which is about 50 miles west of Cloquet. And the bog is kind of a magical place that I love to visit, especially in the winter, but I visit there year round. And so here are some of the birds that will come to the bog. So the common redpoll, and common redpolls, you'll see they'll come, 20, 30, 40 at a time. Red crossbills, super hard to anticipate where they're going to be, but when I'm always looking for the flocks, when I'm trying to get them, identify them and photograph them. So they're always at the tops of pines, looking for the pine cones. Evening grosbeaks are really fun. They come down to the bog in great numbers, and each year it's really different. There's a finch report that comes out, and so you can, kind of anticipate what you might see in the winter. Boreal chickadees, very special, very rare. It's nice to see that they're at a few more places in the bog. And so it has, instead of the black-capped chickadee, the boreal chickadee has the brown head. And then during the winter, more hawks come down. So this is the northern hawk owl. And the great gray owl comes down. You get more of them, but the great gray owls can be seen year-round in Zaxton Bog. And then the Bohemian waxwings. I don't necessarily see them in the bog, but I see them in Duluth. And Duluth has a ton of cherry trees, crabapple trees that the cedar waxwings and the Bohemian waxwings love. And the Bohemian waxwings come down in the winter, and you can see them in groups of 500. Last year there was a flock of 3,000. And this is where I just say, take as many pictures as you can. And when you download them, then you'll see exactly what you're getting. And it's just, you just never know. But just, especially with waxwings and other birds that are coming in like, 10s, 20s, 30s, just take a bunch of pictures. During migration, this is the sad part that, almost all the migratory birds are threatened somewhere along their ranges. Only 9% of all the migratory species are protected year-round in all of their habitats. Some of my tips are getting to know your bird habitats and behaviors. So check out your local, we're so lucky here in the Twin Cities, in Minnesota, to have a lot of green spaces. So getting to understand those places. Morning and evenings are the best times for lighting. So again, know where the sunrise and sunsets on some of your ponds or different places. Try to get a good angle. Add background, when possible. The blue sky is awesome, but a lot of times if you've got, a gray sky, really trying to figure out like how you can get that tree or how you can get, some of the flowers in the background. What I say about to people who are, whether it's birding or photography, enjoy what you see. I might go out and try to find a particular bird, but I'm always happy to see what I see. And with photography, one of the things that I enjoy is just like downloading everything and then somehow getting a magical shot. So when I talked about, taking photos and then taking a few steps, keep doing that. Take photos, take a few steps, take some more photos. The other thing with when I'm in my kayak, I sort of do the same thing. I will paddle, drift, and take some photos, and paddle a little bit more, and then drift a little bit. What I try not to do is get too close to the birds, and they're going to fly away, but I really do try to stay distance. When I have some of my close-up shots, I am pretty far away because I have a 600 millimeter lens. And so a lot of those photos, I'm just cropping in. So I'm not as close as they look. Take a ton of shots. Like I said, I've taken over 140,000, probably 150,000 photos. And I have about 10 to 15,000 that I keep. And for me, I just love being outside. I love that birding has gotten me outside. I love that the community that we have with the Urban Bird Collective is not only with the birds, but with the people. And that's really important as well. So I just, that is sort of my presentation. And I really want to open it up for questions. And, I know that's, many of you who are on here are, photographers and birders. And so this is just my sort of experience. So opening it up for questions.
Thank you, Monica, for sharing all of that. I love that you talk about how UBC Urban Bird Collective builds this community, but birders in general do have a community of their own. And just the reminder to slow down, and taking photographs is literally like freezing birds in time. So that's amazing, and thank you for sharing all your beautiful photos. We do have a question in the Q&A. And I apologize, I don't want to mispronounce your name, but the question is, where do you find your bird notifications?
Yeah. eBird is the best place. And for eBird, you can sign up for different notifications. You can sign up for, to get them every hour. You can get up every at the end of the day. You can sign up to get rare birds. You can sign up for just your location. So there's lots of different options that you can ask for when you're signing up for eBird.
And for those that don't know eBird, could you talk a little bit more about, is it pretty easy to sign up? What is the process like for signing up?
So eBird is pretty easy to sign up. eBird is one of the biggest, what I say, community science sort of websites. And what's happening is that not every birder, thousands and thousands of birders all over the country, all over the place are downloading what they've seen. So if I go out on a walk, if it's bass ponds, I will keep a list of what I've seen and how many I've seen. And then I put it into eBird. And so then when people go to eBird, they can see what I've seen at bass ponds and whoever else has been at bass ponds. And so that's where you'll get your notifications. I would say there's probably tutorials on eBird and different places to ask questions, but it's really a great go-to place to find species. And if you're going to visit, like just say if you're going on a vacation and you're going up to a certain park, you'll be able to pull up on eBird what they've seen in that park. And so then you can kind of be prepared, like, what should I be looking for? So eBird is a great place for that.
Yeah, and it's almost like an all-in-one resource where if you find a bird right in the zip code that you are living in and you wanted more information, you can literally find information about that bird and what the bird looks like, what it sounds like. So it's all in one application, which is really nice. Another question Jean has is, are you noticing changes in the types of bird you see over the last 20 years due to climate change?
Yeah, I would say, I've seen less birds and probably the number of species have been in decline. There are a few that maybe I've seen more. So, like I talked about the Harris sparrow. So did I get lucky and see more of them? But unfortunately, the birds are losing a lot of their habitat, and so we're seeing a lot less of them. There'll be times where I'm in the woods and it's quiet, and I'm like, where are all the birds? So I've heard that. I've heard it from other people that they've reported that their backyard isn't as busy as it used to be. So I would say, climate change and just the different um, things that we're doing to destroy some of the habitat is not helping the birds.
Are you noticing in the last, 15 plus years or so that you've been doing photographs, are you noticing maybe more rare occasions of photographing certain birds?
Yes, I think that I think just, and who knows why, but just the temperatures, whatever. We're seeing a lot of birds that have been maybe thrown off their sort of normal migratory path. And so we'll see some different rare birds, and that's happening, all over the country. Uh, there was a penguin that got found somewhere. I don't know if it was Australia or whatever, but it got blown off. And so, yeah, we're seeing a little bit more. I just saw a note that there was a rufous hummingbird. So we only have ruby-throated hummingbirds, but there's a rufous hummingbird here that has been spotted, and then another, I want to say, gray-throated warbler. Warblers are gone. Warblers left, a month or so ago, but this warbler has been here for, I want to say, a few weeks, and it's only been spotted in Minnesota, I think, 8 times ever. And I think it's near Anoka right now. I haven't gone to see it yet, but hopefully, maybe it'll still be there when I get there.
Danielle B asks, what camera, lenses, or equipment do you recommend?
Yeah, I'm a terrible person to recommend because I love my Canon. So I have a Canon, and I have, like I said, I have an 600 millimeter lens. You can try lots of different things. National Camera is a great place to go and ask questions. They have experts there that will help you. And so, I have most of my equipment is Canons, but I am trying a Sony right now, and I'm just a creature of habit. So it's really hard for me to get used to my Sony. So I'm sometimes fall back and go to my Canon. So, uh, but it's really just a matter of preference.
Okay. And then Kathy asks, what is the rarest bird you have seen in Minnesota?
Mm. Shoot. The rarest bird. I mean, I got a glimpse of a cinnamon teal, but I didn't get a good photo. So that was pretty rare for me when I think about sort of the birds that are my nemesis. The red crossbill was really my nemesis, and I could not get a red crossbill. And last winter, I was up at Zaxton Bog and just at this feeder. The red crossbill, both male and female, I showed you a picture of them, came to this feeder, and it was like, oh my God. So that was great. And then another rare bird that is coming down, and they come down probably every 5 to 6 years, and they are boreal owls. So I've never seen a boreal owl. If I got it, it would be a lifer. So my goal this year is to get a boreal owl, and this is an interruption year. So far, I think 100 have been banded up north in Minnesota. So boreal owls.
Great. Again, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and type them in the Q&A section. I guess I have one for you. So I know you've been photographing birds for a really long time, and like you said, birds are really fast. Sometimes it's a really rare occasions to be like up close and personal. And again, a photo really does freeze that bird in time. So what is something um, And it could be for a specific bird or just birds in general, but what is something about birds or a specific bird that you have learned through photography?
Yeah. So I learned so much through photography. It's funny because sometimes when birds are moving around so fast, and I'm just taking photos, and I joke around to say, "I'll let you know what I saw after I download, the photos." But the other thing that I really love is getting the birds from different angles. Like I said, taking just as many pictures as you can, but getting the backside of birds or getting the underneath, getting them in flight and seeing the different colors that are under there. I've learned so much about birds through photography. Um, yeah, I really do love. And like I said, I'm really a documenter as opposed to like a professional photographer, and I really want to share what I see with others so that they want to go out and see the birds. Not everybody's going to have the camera equipment that I have, but binoculars are awesome. So having that equipment, one of the things that we do with UBC is if we invite you out, we're going to have binoculars to lend you so that you can actually get a really good look of these amazing birds.
Great. There's also a couple more questions. So it says, would you give tips on being an ethical photographer?
Yes. Um, like I said, I'm a birder first. So, when I think about the ethics of it, I think the bog is a really good place where, um, this is, some people are just not ethical. So, one, there's the thing around baiting owls or different birds. So, no baiting, right? Just, get a photograph. I've seen people carry ladders because they know where the owl nest is and they climb up the tree. Like that's terrible. For me, what I like to do, so in the bog, people go there because they want to see these rare birds, come down, and that's great. But I think that getting some photographs and making space for the birds is really important. So not just hanging out for a zillion hours, and that's just me. But in the bog, it can get pretty overwhelming for the birds, and you know some of them are used to it. That's fine. Uh, and then the other thing that we try not to practice is um, using the bird calls. So, especially in the spring, especially for rare birds, really trying not to don't use the calls because it really throws off the birds. And they might be hunting, they might be, trying to get food for their babies, all those things. And so it can be very disorienting for them. So those are things that I really try to stress not to do.
Thank you. Those are great tips.
Mhm.
Diane asked, what magnification for binoculars would you recommend to see warblers as well as soaring birds?
Yeah. I use an 8 by 42 magnification. And again, it's really every brand is different. Having a good lightweight binoculars is really important. Um, and then the other thing that I say, even for soaring birds is, having a good scope is a good thing as well. But 8 by 42, and they come in so many different price ranges. They start at $100, and you can go up to $5,000 for binoculars. So you don't need that. Just really, I would say, 200 dollars is a good price. The other tip that I would say is if you know your binoculars, but you're looking for, to upgrade, you might even try a pawn shop. So there's some really good binoculars at pawn shops that you can get for a really great deal.
Yeah, and then I know I went to Saxon Bog on one of the trips and someone had a kind of like an extension camera thing that was attached to their binoculars for photos,
Yeah,
and I also thought that was pretty amazing as well. So there's lots of stuff out there.
yeah. I have an extension for my scope too. So yeah.
Yeah. The next question is, do you have any tips for starting to get paid for photography?
No. Uh, when I thought I was going to be a paid photographer. There are so many photographers out there. Like I said, there's amazing photographers. It's really hard. Uh, Everywhere, when you go birding, I think you see more cameras than binoculars half the time. So I have no recommendations. I am not a paid photographer. Um, so yeah, no, I unfortunately don't. One tip that I forgot to share though, especially for winter birding, winter photography, is when you're out, I actually try to cover up my camera. And if the other thing that I do sometimes is I take my battery out of my camera, and I always have spare batteries no matter what time of year. But especially in the winter, I have spare batteries because the cold really drains them a lot faster. So if I take my battery out, I'm going to put it in an inside pocket to keep it warm, and then hopefully be quick enough to get it back into the camera when I'm ready to take a photo.
That brings up another question is how do you, especially if you know you're having to hike a ways, how do you carry your things with you but be ready to take a photo of something? Because again, birds can be pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, depending on what kind of camera you're carrying, I have the big, you know, 600 millimeter. I think about it as exercise. A lot of times I use a monopod, so I'm carrying it over my shoulder and it's ready to go. It's ready at the length that I need, and I'm just carrying it. The others, a lot of times there are these straps that you can carry, and then you can put your camera right there. And so for me, well, I enjoy just being out. I'm a quick when I talk about the different types of birding or photography. I'm the kind that likes to walk and hike, and I like to see as much as possible. So um, the the camera that I carry is just my exercise, and I'm walking as much as I possibly can and seeing what I can.
Okay, I think that's all the questions that we have. And again, if you do have any more questions, you can feel free to reach out. Again, thank you, Monica, so much for sharing your tips for photographing birds and just sharing your wonderful pictures as well, and your favorite fall migration places to see these birds, and for all of the work that you do at Urban Bird Collective. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Make sure to join us next week for our 190th episode, accessible hunting and fishing stories and opportunities. So we'll have capable partners join us next week to share stories about accessible hunting and fishing in Minnesota. You will also hear about opportunities for you and your loved ones who have a disability to be supported in hunting and fishing. You can register for the webinar using the link that will be dropped in the chat. But have a great rest of your week. And like Monica said, take some time to slow down, get outside and get outdoors. And we will see you next time. Thank you.